Before we dive into the darkness, make sure you're subscribed. Drop a like if you can handle the truth, and tell us in the comments what you think really happened here. Because this case spirals fast, and nothing is as simple as it first appears. The street was already screaming when the police arrived. Blue lights splashed against brick walls and parked cars, cutting through the winter dusk of a quiet residential neighborhood that wasn't supposed to make the news. Neighbors stood frozen on their doorsteps, phones raised, whispering the same question over and over. How could this happen here? On the pavement lay the body of a 15-year-old boy. His name would soon be everywhere, but in that moment, he was just another teenager in a hoodie and sneakers, his life violently interrupted. Paramedics worked desperately, hands moving fast, voices tight with urgency, but the damage had already been done. Minutes later, the word spread. He was gone. Detectives called it a senseless stabbing. No robbery, no gang colors, no obvious motive. Just a sudden explosion of violence that left a child dead and an entire community shaken. Security cameras from nearby homes showed fragments of the aftermath. A figure running, another shouting, someone dropping something metallic that caught the light before disappearing into the gutter. By the time officers canvassed the area, the suspects were already gone. Detective Marcus Hale stood at the center of it all, staring at the blood-darkened concrete. He had worked homicides for nearly 2 decades, but cases involving kids never hardened him. They only made the weight heavier. He knew one thing immediately: this wasn't random. Violence like this never truly is. Within hours, police identified one suspect, a young man in his early 20s with a short temper and a growing record. He was arrested quickly, charged with murder, and placed behind bars. The city breathed for a moment, thinking the nightmare was over. It wasn't. Witnesses had mentioned 2 men, 2 shadows fleeing in opposite directions, 2 voices arguing just seconds before the knife was pulled. And soon, a second name emerged, someone who had vanished completely. The manhunt began quietly at first. Officers knocked on doors, surveillance footage was scrubbed frame by frame, friends were questioned, then questioned again. Every lead pointed to the same conclusion. The second suspect knew he was being hunted, and he was staying 1 step ahead. Days turned into a week, then 2. The city moved on, but the victim's family couldn't. His bedroom stayed untouched. His phone kept buzzing with messages that would never be answered. Candlelight vigils formed at the crime scene, melting wax pooling near the spot where he fell. Behind the scenes, the investigation took a disturbing turn. Detectives uncovered messages on the victim's phone, cryptic, tense exchanges, hinting at a meeting that was never supposed to turn violent. Names appeared that hadn't been on the radar before. One of them belonged to someone shockingly close to the second suspect. Then came the discovery that made the room go silent. Hidden inside a locked storage unit miles away from the crime scene, investigators found clothing stained with blood and a burner phone that made a single call just hours after the stabbing. That call didn't go to a friend. It went to someone the police never expected. And when they traced the number, everything they thought they knew about this case began to fall apart. The hunt for the second suspect had become a citywide obsession. Every CCTV camera, every tip line, every witness was being pulled into the vortex. Detective Marcus Hale worked around the clock, running on caffeine and instinct, his mind replaying the night of the stabbing in an endless loop. There was a pattern here, he could feel it, but it was buried under layers of deception, misdirection, and fear. The first breakthrough came from a neighbor who remembered something strange: a delivery van parked near the victim's street late at night, a van that wasn't supposed to be there. Cross-checking with traffic cameras, the team discovered the vehicle had been registered under a false name. Tracing it led to a rundown warehouse on the edge of the city, a place that seemed abandoned, but not quite. Someone had been using it as a hideout.
Inside, officers found signs of recent activity. Cans of energy drinks lined the counter, a smudged mattress on the floor, and scrawled messages on the wall. "You don't know me yet. You never will." The handwriting was crude, but the menace was clear. They also discovered discarded sneakers, bloodied and worn, matching the type of shoes the killer had been seen wearing on the night of the stabbing. Meanwhile, the investigation into the victim's life uncovered hidden layers of complexity. Adam, the 15-year-old, wasn't just a typical teen. There were rumors of disputes with older teens in his area, minor threats that had gone unreported, and a growing sense that someone wanted him scared. But no one had imagined it would escalate to murder. Detective Hale also noticed the second suspect was clever. Every lead, every tip seemed to hit a dead end. He had vanished completely. No credit card activity, no social media, no sightings. It was as if he had evaporated into thin air, leaving only fear behind. But one detail gnawed at Hale: the burner phone found in the storage unit. The single call traced back to a number registered overseas. Why call abroad in the immediate aftermath of a murder? The answer wasn't clear yet, but Hale suspected a network bigger than a single crime. Then came the chilling discovery. Surveillance footage from a nearby convenience store showed a shadowy figure leaving the city under the cover of night. The figure wore a hoodie, kept his head low, but carried something bulky, something that could be a weapon or evidence. Detective Hale played the footage over and over. Every time he slowed it down, the tension rose. It wasn't just a man on the run, it was a predator, deliberate, careful, and dangerous. Back at the victim's neighborhood, friends of Adam started receiving anonymous messages, threats, warnings to keep silent. It was clear that the killer had associates, or at least people willing to intimidate the family. The detectives realized this wasn't a simple one-on-one attack anymore. It was a tangled web of secrets and alliances. And then came the twist that no one saw coming. A routine forensic sweep of the storage unit turned up a single fingerprint on the burner phone. Not the first suspect, not the victim, someone completely unexpected. Someone within Adam's own circle of acquaintances, someone no one would have suspected. That fingerprint changed everything. The investigation now had to consider betrayal, insider knowledge, and a motive that had been hidden in plain sight. As Detective Hale stared at the print, a sinking feeling took hold. The hunt was far from over, and the danger was closer than anyone could imagine. And then, the phone rang. The call came from the very person whose fingerprint had been found. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The line went dead, but the message was unmistakable. They were still out there, watching, waiting. Detective Marcus Hale's team moved faster than ever. The fingerprint led to a shocking revelation. The second suspect hadn't acted alone. This was no random stabbing. It was a carefully orchestrated plan, hidden beneath layers of misdirection, fear, and betrayal. Every lead, every piece of evidence now pointed to a network surrounding Adam that no one had expected, and it became painfully clear that the first suspect had only been a pawn. The city held its breath as officers traced the calls, tracked the burner phones, and scoured every inch of the area. Days of painstaking surveillance finally bore fruit. A tip came in. Someone had spotted the second suspect near an abandoned industrial estate. This time, he couldn't slip away. Hale and his team moved in silently under the cover of darkness, shadows among shadows, hearts pounding with anticipation. Inside the crumbling building, they found him, or rather, him and someone else. A young man, barely older than Adam, crouched behind crates, eyes darting. He hadn't expected them so soon. The other figure, the true mastermind, was nowhere to be seen, but a trail of evidence pointed straight to a shocking truth. He had been manipulating events from within Adam's own neighborhood. Someone trusted, someone close enough to know his routines, his friends, even his fears. The arrest was tense. The suspect struggled, words spilling out in a frantic mix of denial and confession. But Detective Hale remained calm, recording every detail, every admission. The full picture emerged. Jealousy, greed, and a twisted sense of control had driven the attack. The second suspect had been coerced, pressured, and threatened, trapped in a dangerous game he hadn't fully understood until it was too late. Meanwhile, Adam's family finally received the bittersweet news that justice was closing in. The second suspect's arrest brought relief, but also a new wave of grief as the full magnitude of the betrayal sank in. The mastermind, the hidden figure orchestrating fear and intimidation, was still at large, and the family realized just how close danger had come. Then came the final, haunting discovery. In the mastermind's hideout, police found a series of chilling messages on a notebook and multiple burner phones. Plans, maps, and notes detailed not just Adam's life, but potential future targets. The crime wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern, one that could have continued if the investigation hadn't been relentless. The cold, calculated mind behind the stabbing had almost vanished without a trace, leaving devastation in its wake. As the dust settled, Detective Hale looked over the case files. Evidence, arrests, motives, it all told a story of betrayal, impulsive violence, and the consequences of secrets kept too long. The city could finally breathe, but the scars remained. Adam's friends, his neighborhood, even the police who chased shadows across streets and alleys, all would carry the weight of this tragedy. And then came the final, chilling twist. 3 months later, a body was discovered in a park miles away. The same signature, the same reckless brutality, the same knife. The first suspect was behind bars. The second had confessed. But the mastermind? They were still out there, watching, waiting. The case that seemed closed was nothing but. And as Detective Hale stared at the latest crime scene, he knew one truth with terrifying clarity. In a city like this, darkness never truly disappears. If you thought this story was intense, brace yourself, because sometimes the people you trust most are the ones hiding the deadliest secrets.